Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I met an amazing woman who is going to leave her testimony with us. You want to stick around because it's so powerful and God so aligned and ordained some of the things that she went through and brought her through to the other side of them. And now she's reaching back and she's helping those who may have or may be struggling with the same thing. Her name is MaryAnn Majcher. I'm so glad to call her my friend. So glad for divine connections and just how God is just moving and how he's just amazing and good. So let's go ahead and get to this testimony. You will enjoy it. Trust me. So, hi, MaryAnn. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I know, like, we literally just met about 5 minutes ago, face to face, through via Zoom or whatever. But I'm just so grateful that God has divinely connected us so that you could be on here today to share your testimony. I know we kind of got started a little bit just a minute ago, but we definitely want to hear, what God's going to say through you. So I'm just going to get out of the way and turn the floor over to you for you to give your awesome testimony.
Thank you. I think it's so cool how God connects us through people, and it's going to make me cry because it reminds me how He is so strategic about who He places into our lives and at different times, and He could connect us through other friendships, and um, it just it just blows my mind when we seek Him, how He just we're all a family. We're all part of God's kingdom. And so thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I'm already crying and I haven't started talking yet. um, so I really want to talk today about the miracle of our story. And when you first hear that and I start going into it, you might be like, this doesn't sound so much like a miracle. And it is. And I just feel like so many of us, we all have different stories. We all come from different backgrounds. We all are so uniquely made. And I just believe that God sometimes allows things to happen to us because He wants to change our heart. He wants to change our heart condition. And when our heart condition is changed, then we're able to change other people's hearts through Him. And in 2012, my husband and I were a military family. I grew up in Littleton, Colorado, lived there my entire life until I met and married my husband, and we moved to Charleston, South Carolina, and we decided to start a family, and we got pregnant right away, and it seemed as if in our little world our whole world was rejoicing. um First grandbaby for my side of the family. He's one of six children. um all of his siblings were happy. I mean, this is just like everyone's rejoicing and celebrating. Our community was celebrating. And I just had such a great textbook pregnancy. And I felt this gratitude of life just feels really good. And at my last doctor's appointment, my husband and I went in and they took us to the ultrasound room, and I was excited. I'm almost 40 weeks pregnant. I'm ready to give birth. I can't wait to see my baby. And I look at my husband and he falls to the ground and he said, "No, my son." And I looked at our OB and she said, "I'm so sorry, there's no heartbeat." And at that moment, I felt like my heart just shattered, and it did. And I just kept saying, why? And it felt like I said why for 5 minutes, and they allowed me to be in that ultrasound room, grieving, screaming, crying, questioning for 3 hours. And at one point I'm like, well, now what happens? And they told me I have to give birth. And it didn't make sense to me. Like, birthing death doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And um gosh, I just looking back on that day and that tragedy, there was so much fear, there were so many questions, and I was scared. I was scared. I didn't know Camden is our son that we lost. I didn't know, what is he going to look like? Is the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck? Like, am I going to be okay? Like, I didn't know. There was so much fear, and I was so scared. He was a beautiful, perfect baby, and they told us they didn't know why, and it was really hard for me to not know why. Why, God, did you allow me to get pregnant, me to have this experience, for me to have this nursery, to not have my baby? And gosh, it just, to be quite honest, there's things that I am ashamed of. To cope, I'm not a drinker. I started drinking. I legitimately had a bottle of wine next to me, and I just was drinking this bottle of wine, and I'm like, God, if I don't wake up, I don't even care, because I just felt like this was supposed to be my purpose, and it was taken away from me, and I'm so confused. My husband then got orders for us to move to Washington State, and he had to be deployed. And we did have a funeral for our son Camden in our hometown in Littleton, Colorado. And at that point, the movers came to move our stuff out of our apartment. And one of the girls that was there packing, she had an angel wing on her necklace. And she was crying. And I asked her, are you okay? And she said, there's going to have to be somebody else that packs up your stuff. I lost my baby. And I don't remember all the details, but I just remember sitting there grieving and crying with her and talking with her. And that was the first moment that I felt like God, because I kept praying, please, I feel so alone. And that was kind of in that moment where God showed me, you're not alone. There is other women that have experienced this and survived it. And the fact that she was vulnerable and said, I can't do this, gave that opportunity. And I could say so many stories of women that I've met and I've connected with, but that was the first time. And I did live in Colorado while my husband was deployed, because I needed the support. And there came a point after a couple months of being in bed and just drinking, which it didn't feel good. I didn't feel good. And working out was something that has always been a coping mechanism for me. Shopping too, and that is still something I struggle with, that I'm working through. I think we all have these coping mechanisms, right? And shopping was one of them. Working out was one of them. And I was like, well, I think that's better than the drinking. So I'm going to control what I can. And so that's exactly what I did. I needed to be out of the house. God bless one of my friends who was a director at a preschool. Somebody was on maternity leave, and I took that person's spot temporarily. And I was teaching. I started working out. I let go of alcohol. I said, this doesn't serve me. This doesn't serve God. I'm not going to do it. And I got really into fitness, and I ended up doing a fitness competition 9 months after I gave birth to Camden, as really a metaphoric thing. I carried him for 9 months. I'm going to transform myself. And something I'm not proud of, but is very honest, is I just had a baby, and I didn't want anyone to ask me, where's your baby? Or I didn't want that baby weight on me. And so it was almost like that was my motivation. And I almost wanted something that other people didn't have, which was like, I don't have my baby, but I don't have my baby. My husband's gone, but I'm going to have this body, which is not maybe necessarily healthy, but it in my mind, it was something that I could control at the time. And, gosh, after that ended up being a coping mechanism. And that could be a whole nother podcast about, like having an all or nothing mentality, or honoring our body, because I did go to a little bit of an extreme, and that's a miracle that God redeemed me from, just disordered, like, body image stuff. But we can talk about that another time. So my husband came back from deployment. We moved to Washington, and I was like, okay, God, what do you want me to do for work? And I've worked in the apartment industry before. We went and looked at an apartment complex, and the woman there said, you would be good at this. And I'm like, I did do this before. I did, lease apartments and stuff before. And I kind of shared with her my heart and my story and my grieving and what I was going through. And she also had gone through the same thing. So once again, God, and her son was Gabriel, God was like, okay, like, you're being supported. There's other women that have gone through this. They have survived. And there's jealousy when you want, because at that point I wanted to have another baby. And I also was going through the grief, losing my baby. And there is this envy and jealousy of like, okay, God, like, I had this, and then you took this away from me, and now I'm struggling to get pregnant. And it just didn't feel good. And one thing that I want to share, if somebody is struggling with either miscarriage or stillbirth or infant loss or infertility, the one thing that I kept hearing is, your time is coming. And your time is coming to either meet your baby in heaven, or your time is coming to be an earthly mom. And you got to trust me. And I don't think that everyone kept saying, I'm going to pray for peace over you, or God must have needed another angel, or, there was all these things people would say. And I would get triggered often, if I'm being honest. I would get triggered so much. And I do believe that through the triggers, I was able to have curiosity and compassion for myself, and curiosity and compassion for others, because I don't think that when somebody would tell me something like grief-wise that they went through, that my heart really connected until after I lost Camden. I feel like that opened my heart for me to be vulnerable and to look outside of myself too. And at any rate, like I said, my husband's in the military, so he was deployed and home. And I spent a lot of time by myself. And the thing that's cool about that is that God was able to speak to me a lot through that time by myself. And I know that I get overstimulated a lot. I mean, gosh, especially even now, sometimes we'll be watching a movie and I'm on my phone, and, like, I could be doing so many, like, I'm just used to being overstimulated. And I think that we need to be intentional. We can't hear God if we're overstimulated, and we need the quiet. We need to be intentional with that. And because of being in quarantine, that gave me an opportunity to hear God more too. And I'm kind of going ahead of myself. So through the infertility and the grief of Camden and just waiting to be an earthly mother. I was on fertility medication for 9 months, and we got orders to move again back to Charleston. So we were in Charleston, then Seattle area, then we got orders to move back to Charleston. And at this point, my husband and I sold our car that had a car payment. We got rid of it. We just kept our car that was paid for. We shared a car. And I'm like, I am buying a baby and I am ready. I am ready, Lord. And I just was convinced, like, this is what's going to happen. We're going to move forward with IVF. And when we got orders to move back to Charleston, we couldn't. And I had to surrender. I had to surrender to God. And there was an opportunity to go to a retreat, a couples retreat. And that's when my husband and I went together, and I'm like, okay, like, I surrender. We're not moving forward with anything. I'm just going to work on my relationship with my husband. I just need to let go. And since this was a retreat with our church and there was a lot of just marriage building, my husband and I were able to have the opportunity to pray together, to be around other Christians. And it's gonna make me cry. It was really a beautiful thing because we were able to open our hearts and desires to the Lord, that we wanted another child. And to my surprise, after I was told one of my tube was blocked, I have PCOS. Also, we found out I have a blood clotting disorder. And so they said, more than likely, that's why you lost your son. So in future pregnancies, you will be doing self-injecting Lovenox shots to thin your blood, to help support your body. And the blood clotting disorder I have is not a big deal unless you're pregnant. So it's called anti-flopholid antibody syndrome. APS is the acronym. And so I prayed and prayed for reasons why I want a reason why, because I was so scared of pregnancy. And that kind of gave me a reason, even though I was still scared being pregnant again. I had that reason. And so I do want to share that, because I think so often we're told, I don't know. However, if you're at a fertility clinic, they are going to do more testing than other places because you're paying out of pocket for it. Insurance doesn't cover a lot of testing. And so even though we didn't move forward there with that IVF process, I learned so much about my body. And I think, thank you, God, that you taught me that. And thank you for letting me see that my husband and I, we can share a car and we can honor our money. Like, sometimes we're taught these other lessons, like God wants to teach us these other lessons. And anyway, I know I'm kind of all over the place. But at that retreat, after we prayed a month later, I'm like, I don't feel so good. And the next day I'm like, I'm probably not pregnant, but I'm just going to take the test. And it said I was pregnant. And I just remember, like, oh my gosh, like, can this be? Is this real? After being told your tube's blocked, you have the blood clotting disorder, like, there's no way you're going to get pregnant on your own. But God said yes. And I look back and think, wow, that like, what a miracle of that. And what a miracle that even though Camden isn't here, I still am learning from him. And because he's not here, I think, like, I really want to go to heaven. I want to be with him. Like, I want to have that eternal mindset, because everything we're taught is that this life is just a breath. It's so quick, and that God is giving me this life experience, and so I'm going to live this life experience and give him the glory, because this is just my borrowed time here. And gosh, I mean, there's so many other things. And yeah, of course I still had a lot of grief and anxiety, and so much being pregnant again. And we have Juliana now, who is 4. I know I shared with you earlier that when she was 4 months old, we started trying again. And we have Jace, who is 3. And I see Camden in Juliana and Jace, and I it's such a beautiful thing. And I think to myself, wow, like I am a different mother than I would be if I haven't experienced all this. And when we lived in apartments for over 10 years, and we now we moved back to Washington. We've been going back and forth. That's where the military takes us. When we moved into our house, gosh, we had so many things in storage for years, and I never looked at Camden's stuff. I just never wanted to. It was very triggering for me. But when we moved into this house, we were done with the storage units, and I was able to look at all of his things. I was able to process all of these things that I didn't process before. Then we're in a pandemic. I'm home with all my things, with all my emotions. And through it all, I kept hearing, one of my friends had a tragic loss in her family, and God told me, like, make a journal. Like, you have all these other distractions. I want you to make this journal. And so that's exactly what I did. And that's this journal, the Raw Truth Grief Journal. It's not specific towards infant loss or stillbirth. It's just a very simple 30-day journal. And a lot of each day is labeled whatever day it is for the 30 days. There's either a Bible verse or a quote that, like this one, just the one I opened to. A beautiful thing about learning is that nobody can take it away from you. There's a lot of just great verses in here. And then each day, you mark what day it is. And then the first thing is gratitude and appreciation. And the reason why I did that is because when I was in my deep, dark depths, I kept hearing how gratitude changes everything. And so, as silly as it sounds, at the time, I was like, I have nothing to be thankful for except my eyelashes. So I was like, I got good eyelashes. So, okay, Lord, that's what I'm going to be thankful for today. And it was kind of like this muscle of trying to find the gratitude and getting in that place of like, what can I be appreciative for? Even the silly things, like I went on a walk today and it was sunny. Okay. I'm grateful for that. Like just the simple things. And then what am I feeling right now? Really just so we have that awareness. And there's a journal prompt for each day that has questions. But this is the same for each day. Body movement and exercise. I'm really passionate about that and it doesn't have to be crazy, but even just going for a walk or doing some kind of movement, I think allows us to be more present instead of like being distracted by all these things. And it gives us time with God, with time with ourselves. And then just asking yourself, like, what am I eating today? What vitamins am I taking? Like, how am I feeling? And then the last question is, what am I really I'm really proud of myself today because, and I want people to have this, just this whole awareness of asking themselves questions and having that curiosity and compassion so they can show up as their best selves, so they can heal, so they can walk the journey, because I know we all want to walk around it, but we can't. We have to walk through it. And yeah, there's just these, like, this question was, what do you want to learn more about? How can you take action on this? And just to be able to get to know ourselves and get to know God better, because when we do that, we do feel more peace. And that question of, I pray that you feel peace that used to make me angry, I now am like, hey, thanks for praying peace over me. And there's that, that, like, no Jesus, no Jesus, no peace, no Jesus, KNOW, no peace. And there's a lot of truth to that.
You are amazing. Like, oh, I got so much from everything that you said. Just even from the part where you were like, you weren't proud of, and you had never been a drinker, but that was the thing that came to you to numb that pain.
Mm-hmm.
We have that in common. When I lost my mother, and I talk
Mm.
about it in my book, but that just, I really just, I feel like we are connected. Like you said that you were pulled away and you were by yourself, and God wanted you by yourself so you could spend that time with him. And he did the same thing for me
Mm.
when I was writing my book, and it was a 9-month period where he did
Wow.
that. My husband was in South Carolina and I was in North Carolina. He
Mm.
was working and I was with our children, and we had to separate, not separate like legally, but just
Yeah.
live in 2 separate states, you know. And during that time, he put me apart. So when you said that, I was like, oh man, God doesn't waste anything. He uses every single thing. He used your pregnancy, and even like the trauma and tragedy of that. You were able to see him in it. And now you're able to bless other people, and not just women, people who are grieving, through your journal and through this testimony that you just gave. So, man, like, so amazing, like how God does this and the similarities, because I know if I can relate to it, then there's so many more people who can also relate to it. And some really good friends of mine lost their mother suddenly on Sunday.
Oh,
And I spoke with her, the daughter who's my friend, yesterday, and we were talking about how what you said, you don't understand what that feels like. You're on the side of it who maybe haven't lost or haven't been through that grief
mm.
of someone, and you don't know exactly how to. But when it flips and you're on the other side of it, it's like, man, I didn't know how this feels. You know, maybe I should have reached out more when they lost, you know,
Mm.
someone. But we should never feel guilty about that. You know, there's a reason why we go through things and the
Yes.
timing that we go through them, right? So when you said that, I was like, wow, like literally just yesterday, I was having this conversation with someone who had just lost their mother.
Yeah.
Oh, MaryAnn.
And it's still, I mean, gosh, I'm not an expert on grief. Like, it still scares me. And I mean, I have so much anxiety about, like, uh, God, don't, I want more time with the people I love. And I know that the reality is that if we're lucky, we might get to live, to be 100. But I know that's the reality. And it's hard to process it. And it's hard because we love people, the people we love. And I do think that is something, like you said, that connects us, is like, wow, like with your friend, you're like, I feel what she's feeling.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I told you earlier today, you know, I came home and I was at Bible study earlier. We were talking about the Beatitudes, and the one that says, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted, right? So
Wow.
when we're talking about it, I had a lady ask one of the group members, she was saying, you know, does that literally mean like mourn sin? Or Couldn't that also
Mm.
mean mourning like death and, the things that we go through and, stuff like that, tragedies? And the thought came to my mind when I was in my study of it on Monday, preparing for a Bible study, that it's the same thing.
Yes.
Because when we mourn death, death would not be here if it weren't for sin, right? So
Right.
when we are mourning death, ultimately we are mourning sin. And the Bible says that we shall be
Wow.
comforted, right? We shall be comforted. So I'm so glad that the Lord comforted you and sent you the lady, the first lady, and then everyone else who God sent you. And now you are
Yeah.
using what you went through to help other people. And that's exactly like we're supposed to do. So like you are amazing. And I'm just so grateful to have met you and that you came on today. And is there anything that you would like to add? I do want to say that your link for your journal is going to be in the description, because I definitely know some people that could use it, and even those I don't know, I'm really hoping that people will
Mm.
go ahead and purchase a journal, because I love how you just laid it out. It's so beautiful. But is there
Thank you.
anything that you want to add? I definitely don't want to cut you off, because I know that God is doing something.
Um, I just, gosh, the the thing I'll add is that we just are all connected, and that to always have that compassion for yourself and for others, like we talked about, and um, get curious about your habits and your behaviors, and are your habits and behaviors aligned with who you believe God wants you to be, and how he wants you to show up in this world.
Amen. That's so good. That is so good. Something about being in alignment with Him.
And I listened to your podcast on alignment, or on your video on alignment too this morning.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that was so good. God is just, He's up to something. And I'm just like, I just want to walk in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just want to be in alignment so I can just do what He wants me to do and just really get the benefits, of walking with Him. Because our
Oh,
pain,
you are
we go
so
through pain.
amazing.
Oh, thank you. We go through pain, but it serves no purpose if we're not looking for the purpose in it. It's just pain. But when we're looking for and we understand that there's a greater purpose behind it, that's how we get through, right?
Yes, your pain has a purpose.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. But I was just hoping you could tell me no if you want to, but would you just lead us in prayer as we go out, maybe for even those who are watching who
Yeah.
are broken in grief and just need comfort?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lord, thank you so much for this time together. And thank you for those that are watching and those that are just spending time with us, whether they're watching it today or a year from now or 10 years from now. That I just pray that you give others comfort. You let them feel that their pain does have a purpose, and that you are going to carry them through, and that they are going to continue to learn from every experience, even the painful ones. And I just thank you for this time together, and just bless those that are watching. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, MaryAnn. I look
Thank
forward to
you.
talking soon.
Yes. Bye, friend.